Hi, I'm Sam Sells, and welcome to my podcast, Clean Money. I'm a serial entrepreneur that has led over 2 billion development projects around the world. But the work I am most proud of is the work we do here at Wild Mountain Capital. We not only create great returns for our socially conscious investors, but we make an impact in the many communities we work in and we change lives. I like to say investing matters, and my show is to talk with everyday folks that are not only creating great success, but making an impact in society and improving the lives of others. That is my mission, and I want to share my stories and others with you. Welcome to Clean Money. All right, welcome everybody to the Clean Money podcast, where we talk about making an impact in the world through the use of our time and resources. Today, my guest is Dale Wills, who I'm very excited to have on the call. We've been chatting it up over here, and I'm excited for everybody else to hear. But Dave Wills is an experienced real estate developer who has been involved in the industry for more than 25 years. He is the owner and founder of Centra Companies, and since 2011, he has overseen the development of more than 1,500 homes across 50 plus projects totaling more than $500 million in project value. He recently established Centra Capital Partners, a real estate syndication company partnering with accredited investors to build wealth through the ground up single family home developments in the Midwest. Love it. The Centra team controls developments from start to finish, leveraging its industry experts to source, entitle, build, and sell each home, which allows them to control costs, control risk, and adhere to the schedule. Dale, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sam. Yeah, you said we talked offline, and yeah, I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah. So, uh, just to bring the listeners up to speed, I mean, we've been talking about um, all sorts of things here. We've talked about robots, we talked about affordability in America, and all sorts of things. But let's start from the beginning. Like, what is it you're really doing right now? And what does this future look like?
Yeah, we deal in anything that's real estate related. Any kind of development, apartments, retail, office. Most of our focus right now is on for sale affordable housing, just because that's where the greatest opportunities and are the greatest needs. And so that's where a lot of our energy. We're based in Minneapolis, although we do work in other markets. Most of our energies and focus is in the Minneapolis market.
Fantastic. And you're doing single family homes ground up?
We do, yes, it's mostly all ground up. There are few exceptions. Sometimes it'll be a redevelopment. Example, we had one that a school that had asbestos and lead-based paint, and the soils were contaminated from some oils. And so we do a redevelopment and rebuilt that, or it could be a farm field that we've converted into a subdivision. But we're generally start to finish, and then we do some townhomes as well as single family attached.
Oh, fantastic. Uh, and it's all super, super expensive, right? Is that what you guys are doing?
We're all affordable, trying to get it as affordable as we can. And that we spend a lot of time actually on that of how do we create efficiencies to make it more affordable.
So I love that, like, to create efficiencies, you guys brought everything in-house, from the acquisition of the land to controlling, the cost as much as you can, and all the way to the output to when you sell. Does that really increase affordability, reduce cost?
It does. I'll give you an example on the houses because we control all aspects of it. Now, we don't physically build the houses. We will hire the plumber, we hire the electrician, we manage the process. But as an example, we stole this. Elon Musk is a master of this. Henry Ford was a master of this. And, Henry Ford, he was quoted. I don't know if he actually said this, but, if we asked our customer what they wanted, they'd say, I want a faster horse.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have any idea what was possible. And so they created a car. And then, it was Henry Ford. You can pick whichever one you want as long as it's the one we offer, because that's the only one we offer. And so we did very similar to that. And we really figured out, what does the consumer need? What they want, what they need don't necessarily match. And we build the same thing over and over. And so I steal it from Henry Ford and I say, you can pick whichever paint color you want in the house as long as it's the one color we offer, because we only offer one color. So you
Yeah.
can't make, but by doing that as an example, I can go to the painters and say it's going to be the same every time. Now, in paint, as an example, I can't get a better price. Whereas if I'm going to build 100 homes in this subdivision that are all black shingles, I can get a better price. But paint, what does that do? The painter knows that he can go in and it's going to be the same every time. There's never going to be a mistake. He's not going to go, oh, shoot, I painted the wrong color and now I got to repaint it, which is very costly, those mistakes. He can anticipate. They can, in certain trades, the framers, if they're building the same home over and over, they know exactly what the plan looks like. So they can build them significantly faster. We had a home, the framers were taking 10 days to frame. After they got a couple of them done, they started framing these in 2.5 days. Well, how much cheaper can they do it? Now they're making a lot of money, which we want. We want everybody that works with us to make a lot of money. So they're making a lot of money because they're doing it faster, but they're also able to pass a lot of those savings on to us, which gives us the ability to make a lot of money. And then in turn, we can turn around and pass a lot of those savings on to the buyer, which makes it more affordable. So those would be examples of controlling the whole process, gives us the ability to find those efficiencies and pull some of that out. And there's a lot of people that won't buy a house from us as a result, but we don't care if everybody buys a house, just as long as a lot of people buy a house.
From my side, we've been really, really focused the past 6 years on, affordability. How do you create affordable places? And we went through a lot of acquisition rehab because the cost of construction went crazy in 2000 and 2021, right? The end of 2020, 2021, it just went berserk. And um, it is caused more and more deep reflection on how do we control costs. And it's doing exactly what you're doing right now. You guys figured it out and you're doing it. And it's
There's a
fantastic.
long ways to go. We talked about some of that with robots and things. There's a long ways to go, but we've made progress.
Well, so let's talk about robots. Tell if people aren't familiar, I mean, this just came out. I just saw this morning, I was watching videos of Elon Musk robots tiling floors and doing all sorts of things. So what's happening?
So the best I understand it, and I've seen them doing some of the work and showing how it works. And the best I understand is eventually these robots would be able to replace the human worker. And I'm a big believer. Technology is not going to replace us entirely. Technology is just going to replace people that aren't using technology. And I'm a big believer in that. And so we are example. I've got a good friend who owns a modular home um, manufacturing, and they create pods for a hotel. So they put it in together like a Lego set, and they build the hotel, or they'll do it with apartments. But because of the lack of technology, they really can't build any cheaper than I can build in the field, because we ran some direct comparisons. We created a plan. We designed it to be built in his plant. We also designed it to be built on site, and then we went out and bid them, and I was able to build it cheaper. But a lot of that is because we don't have the technology. Once we have those robots in place, now Elon, I believe, is saying about 3 years, and I love his optimism. I think he's a brilliant man, but we're probably more like 6 if he's thinking 3.
Yeah.
But you think about that warehouse, and a human gives you 8 hours of work of the day, and they're taking breaks. And I don't care how good we are, we don't give our best for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Do I get maybe your maximum for an hour? Well, a robot presumably is going to give me their best for the entire shift. Well, they're predicting these robots are going to cost $30,000. So if I can buy a robot for 30,000, well, you think about if I'm paying an employee 60,000 a year plus work comp plus social security, everything else, benefits, I'm getting close to 100,000 a year for that employee that can work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Well, a robot could, other than updating the battery, can work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for
Yeah.
$30,000. And so, I can get 10 times the production. When we get that kind of technology in place, that's when we're going to really see construction advance. Because it's interesting if you think about construction, what industry has not really advanced in the last 30 years because of technology? Unfortunately, construction's one of them.
It's construction. We are deep into this. We've been talking to venture capital firms. We've been working with, big investors, small investors. Like, how do you really change the game? And, interest rates are going to go up and down. All the other things are going to have been the same, but to change the game, you really have to cut the cost. It's the only way. And the only way to cut the cost is through manufacturing, but the manufacturing just isn't there yet. So we're building a 350 or 324 unit apartment complex in Las Vegas. We just got the quote back from the builders, and went out and they got quotes from modular builder and then stick built, three-story walk up, and we got the same thing. It was cheaper for the stick built than it was for the modular builders.
Yeah, we're finding the only real advantage of the modular is time to market.
Yeah, that's it.
They can be building these pods while we're excavating. They can be building the pods while we're pouring. And so it's the time to market. But outside of that, they can't compete. And then when you do smaller scale houses, they're about 20% more than what we can do.
Yeah, makes sense. And 20% on a $200,000 house, that's $40,000 difference.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see the future. I'm excited for the technology, but construction's been so behind the curve.
It is. I'm excited. We're pushing really hard. We talked to lots and lots of modular builders. We're just pushing, pushing, pushing. And I think there's this, I've seen it. You see it a lot on social media. It's like, oh, these developers are evil. They're just charging more and more. And so how does it feel, Dale, to be an evil developer trying to take people's money?
Yeah, I've come to grips with it. I'm okay being evil.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, really, it's interesting. We've been invited. Minneapolis City's invited us several times to give them proposals, and they had a whole area. They had houses. They tore them down, and they're redeveloping it. Now they wanted to build affordable housing, and it was a super great concept, and I loved it. And we met with them, and they wanted to work with us, but ultimately the elected officials decided to go with a nonprofit company because they'd be able to do it cheaper and it would be better for the community and all the good things that come with the nonprofit. What's interesting is we could have built those houses significantly cheaper than the nonprofit. So we could have given them a more affordable product and still made a ton of money and still been evil, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not evil. Um, it's it's interesting. That's so interesting. We've looked at, nonprofits and different things, and the at the end of the day, the for-profit enterprises will find a way to make it more affordable. We're incentivized to do so. And I'm just I'm very interested. I'm excited to meet folks like yourself who are out there seeking to make things more affordable for others, because there's no way the government can ever solve this problem alone. We got what? 75% of Americans are spending more than a third of their income on their housing right now. 75%. And it's just insane.
I think the biggest challenge, the government holds a significant purpose and role, for us. But the biggest problem with the government is they've got to get out of the way. You know, we have on average the last 3 years 5.21% inflation each year for the last not 5 years, 3 years, and well, we have inflation because the government keeps spending so much money. Well, if they didn't spend so much money, we wouldn't have this inflation, which means all of our houses would be significantly cheaper today than they were, back to where they were 5 years ago. In a lot of these cities, you're in the Texas market, and that's still a little bit the Wild West, which I love. But a lot of these markets, the regulation has gotten so difficult to develop. You're all of them have a purpose, but they all want to protect their kingdom. And you've got, whether it's wetlands, whether it's soils, whether it's environmental zoning, and you're dealing with all these agencies, which just make it more and more expensive. And the challenge we have is all of us are pointing the fingers at the other person. If just you, I think we've all got to look at ourselves and say, okay, what am I contributing? what can I do differently to improve this? And I think that's part of the challenge is a lot of the government agencies aren't willing to do that self-reflection and say, well, what am I doing to impact this?
Yeah, very, very interesting. Last week we were at a conference, small conference full of family offices and some senior officials in government. And there were some senior officials there from California, and they were just begging the few of us that were developers to come to California. And it's like, okay, you would have to subsidize us heavily because we can't build for a loss. Like that's how you go out of business. And not to mention it's, years extra of effort to qualify and to get all the entitlements correctly and all these other things. And it just becomes astronomically expensive that, you can make money, easier money elsewhere and improve more lives elsewhere. It's just,
And I think that's the key right there, Sam. Is it's well, where can I impact the most lives for the good? And I can go to California and beat my head against the wall and impact significantly less lives than if I go to a San Antonio where I can impact a lot of people for good.
yeah. And what's interesting is one of the folks there represented $4 trillion of public funds in California. So they have to invest it at this their government mandate in for-profit enterprises because it funds, all the teachers' unions and everybody else's retirement accounts. And they weren't investing in California real estate. So they were getting in trouble because they like it was not it's not just it was interesting, really, really interesting. And they just, well, we really, really want this to happen. Okay, we'll come do a project. Oh, we're not going to invest because it's not going to make money. Well, like
Yeah.
if your own government's not going to invest in your own state because it's not going to make money, like there's a problem.
That should tell you something.
It it was yeah, just kind of break my mind. So tell me about what are you guys doing in syndications and what kind of deals are you guys raising money for?
Yeah, we actually a little background. We started this, so we're about 10 months into this. And it started one of the benefits we offer our employees is they can buy a house at cost. And depending how long they've been here on how frequent. And so we encourage them to do that. And sometimes they'll buy the house for themselves. We've had people buy it for their children or for their parents. But what we really encourage is buy them for yourself as rentals. Start building some wealth for yourself and start, creating a legacy for your children. And so I have one employee, he does this very regularly, as frequently as we allow. He buys them and he's built up quite the portfolio and a lot of equity there. But we were talking about it one day, and in the conversation, it really hit me the difference, the way the tax code is written, and the difference on how he can accelerate his wealth versus the way I can accelerate wealth. And I
Mhm.
can accelerate my wealth much faster than he can merely because I have to do a full tax return and he's on a W 2. And that just really bothered me. So, what can I do to help these people that I care about, that I love, to accelerate their wealth building as well? That's where the seed started several years ago. Well, it evolved into now what we have today as Central Capital Partners, which we're raising capital. So now we've given the ability for our employees to do this, that they can invest their bonuses, they can invest in this, they can build wealth at accelerated rate using the tax code to do that. But then we've also said, well, now let's just let anybody that wants to co-invest with us to build wealth, let's do it together. And so we've opened it up. So we're fairly new to this, the fund, and right now we're offering it on for sale housing. So effectively, if somebody invests in our individual fund, they're a part owner in that for sale housing. And everything we're doing, we've already owned or had under contract. We do it without the funds. Now we're just going to use, as we raise funds, use the excess of our funds to be able to do more deals and diversify a little bit more. But it's gone really well. We've fully funded one project. We've got two more that are being close to being funded that are for it. So it's for sale housing, and so you're literally investing in for sale housing, which I think is pretty fun because there's not a better industry in the world, I think, than real estate. I mean, it's just I love what we do.
Yeah. I you're giving first time homeowners and second time homeowners, you're giving early investors opportunities. Generally, investors at some point grow out of single family homes when they get into bigger things like what you're doing now, funds and other things where they can accelerate it even faster and faster. But you need somewhere to start. I started in single family homes. I did that for probably 12 or 13 years before I moved, transitioned into something different, but bigger projects. I think it's remarkable that you guys enable your own employees to invest like that, and just create opportunities. I think that's what this really is all about, is creating opportunities for others. Because we've created opportunities for ourselves, we can now create opportunities for others.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun. One of the things I love to look at it is, hopefully for most of us, or for all of us, they're very positive memories. But if you think about your most formidable memories are memories of sitting on the living room floor, watching a Disney movie with your family, or swinging in the backyard, or learning to ride a bike in the street, or going down the street to the ice cream shop and having an ice cream, or going to the movie theater with your families. And what's super cool is when people invest in your fund, they invest in our fund. We're building these houses, we're building the ice cream shops, we're facilitating those memories. That's what we do, is
Yeah,
we're creating memories for families. And I think, I mean, how cool is that, that we can help people build wealth, and we can create this environment that creates those memories.
it's amazing. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Create wealth, create impact, make a difference in people's lives. Like it's amazing. I'm man, I'm proud of you for what you're accomplishing and what you're doing and your enthusiasm. And not, you know, and not just because you're a BYU fan, which is amazing, by the way, but like, because you're actually going out there and doing it. Like a lot of people talk about this stuff, but they don't actually go do it. They don't go out there and create opportunities for other people. Or they're small-minded about it and think, oh, I'm just building a house. No, you're not just building a house. Like it's a home. All the things that you just said about where we create all these memories, like all these things happen in these homes.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I think you and I were talking before the show of some of the things you're doing and some things we're doing on how do we create more affordable housing. I mean, can you think of a greater way to have an impact on society than to have an apartment complex in Las Vegas that's comfortable and it's warm and it's inviting and it's affordable? I mean, talk about impacting lives for the good.
Oh, it's amazing. So the city of Las Vegas says, we have all these homes, these people are on the fault line, and these we think these homes are going to get crushed by the earthquake that happened on this fault line. So we need to move these 92 people. Can you set aside 92 of these units for these folks at, this rate? And we're like, yes, absolutely. So all those people now get to leave the fault line where they live, where they have a high chance of death when the earthquake comes and California falls into the ocean. I'm just kidding. When
That'd be okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. I'm just kidding. So but they get a place that's clean, safe to live in. The demand for like there's 55,000 people there on the wait list to get into something affordable that the government's willing to subsidize their housing. It's just the demand is insane, and we just see it growing and growing and growing, and the government keeps getting in the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are some good things, the tax credits, and there's a lot of programs out there that you guys use, that we use, that are beneficial. But yeah, it's unfortunately all too often they're the problem.
They're the problem. So in this case, Vegas, they're so motivated that they're becoming part of the answer, which is fantastic. But that's not always the case. I remember in Memphis, we've tried to do a lot of stuff in Memphis, and we could never get the government there to support. Like they're so frustratingly difficult to work with.
It's interesting. I'm presenting in a couple of weeks. 125 cities are coming and wanting to hear about how we can help solve their high housing. And that's in effect the message is if you're ready to make a change, we're ready to do it with you. However, if you want me to jump through all your hoops and red tape, we're probably not the team for you. But if you're ready to make a change like Las Vegas is doing, let's
Mhm.
go. But if you want to
Yeah.
behave like Memphis, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. The, we can't even significant. We're
Yeah.
trying to do the right thing. We're trying to help as many people as possible. That's the purpose of the government, is to help create the opportunities for their people to prosper.
Yes. Yes. Now, if we just do more of it.
Yeah. So, what do you think if you could look in your crystal ball? We're like, you know, 2 weeks away from inauguration day, new president, new regime. The current president's on holiday. Um, what do you think's going to happen? And I'm just going to shut my mouth after that. It's like, what do you think's going to happen coming up?
I have learned, you know, the old saying that the market can stay irrational longer than I can stay solvent. And, and I really have applied that even to real estate. And that is, there are opportunities no matter what goes on. We made a ton of money and had a ton of success back in 2010, 11, 12, when everybody was running scared. And that business model at that time was very successful, but was an impossible business model in 2014.
Mm,
And COVID kicked in, and we're all crying chicken little, running around. The world's sky is falling, and we pivoted very quickly, and we made a lot of money as a result. But what we did then has got to be different than what it is today. And so, I look at it, one of the things we're really focused on is affordability. And, we know the funnel concept, you've got a funnel. Well, there's this many people at the top of the funnel, but the further down you get that funnel, the less people there are. And so I look at it as affordability, whether it's an apartment complex in Vegas or a modular home in Memphis or a for sale home in Minneapolis. If you can stay at the top of that funnel, there's opportunity. So if interest rates go up all of a sudden to 9%, the top of the funnel's narrower suddenly, but we're still at the top of the funnel. If interest rates were to go down to 4%, well, the top of the funnel just widened significantly and we're still at the top of the funnel. And so I love that because one, we're solving problems, which is affordable housing is a major problem that we have. So we're still solving a problem and a major need, and we're helping people. We're creating homes and environments for people, and we're making a lot of money at it. And we're staying at the top of that funnel where there's the greatest need. So I don't worry too much about it. If we're doing an apartment complex today and I've got to pay a 7% interest rate, and if that thing pencils, fantastic, do it. And then guess what? If interest rates jump up to 9%, that's a great deal. And guess what? If the interest rates drop down to 4%, I can refinance it. And now I'm making a killing. So if the
yeah.
deal works at 7, do the deal. Make it happen. It really disappoints me when I hear entrepreneurs that are talking about doing deals and they say, well, I'm going to wait and see what the interest rates do. But you look at historically in the 60s, interest rates were really low. And then they started climbing in the 70s. You think about that person that said, I'm going to wait and see what interest rates do. They waited for 2 decades. Well, how much money did people make in the 70s and 80s? Lots of people got rich in the 70s and 80s doing real estate deals. But that person that was waiting for interest rates, well, he had to wait until 1993.
Yeah.
Well, what a
Insane.
terrible deal. And so I look at that and say, there's deals, there's opportunities. So just watch and see. We might see the opportunity zones get expanded um, and extended. Well, that'd be pretty great. And we'll take advantage of that if it happens. And if it doesn't, there'll be other opportunities. I think the biggest thing is what's the here and now. I get really nervous about what might come. I played the stock market for a little bit and I learned I don't play the stock market anymore.
Yeah. That's what I learned too. I lost money in stocks. Much
Yeah.
better to stick with something I can scratch, sniff, touch, control, make a difference with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the tangible aspect of what we do. How fun is it to go drive around and say, I had something to do with that 10 years ago. And these trees are now 30 feet tall. And,
Yeah.
you see people that are living their lives. It's like, how cool is that to have been involved in that, whether it's as an investor or building it or designing it, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's a it's amazing. We these places that we took on that were like full of crime and, we took over 75% reduction in crime. It's clean, it's safe. I drive there now. I'm like, I'm not nervous. I was nervous when we first got here. I'm not nervous anymore. There's kids out playing in the park. Like that would not have happened if the slumlord kept it, right? It takes people like you, Dale, and others to, if we really want to change the world of housing, it's going to take a lot more of people like us and a lot of investor capital to make those things happen.
That's, the thing I love about the investor is you think about that, you've got a fund and you've got various entities and people that are invested. It's okay. I am so grateful for my doctors and my dentists and orthodontists. And I'm so grateful for what they do. It's kind of like the guy that's working the stock market. Well, that's super important role and thankful for them. And I'm not going to do it. I'm going to
Yeah.
ask a professional trade stocks and I'm going to ask a doctor to help me. And, how cool is that you could take your money and put it into your fund. And then that you could say, you know what? Not only am I making a difference what I do for my career, but I'm making a difference. I'm making a lot of money. I'm building wealth and I'm also making a difference because I'm investing in communities, using your example, 75% in crime reduction. Now these mothers don't have to worry about letting their kid go outside and ride their bicycle and what might happen to them. What difference did you make in their lives? So how cool is that I could take my money, put it into your fund and make that change in people's lives and make a bunch of money doing it?
It's amazing, right? It's a total shift of how we think. When you invest in stocks, you have no idea where the money goes. You don't. Like you invest the most in crypto, you have no idea where that money went. It could have gone to a Russian mafia, it could have gone to somebody, to your neighbor who's mining it in his bathroom. Like you don't know. Like you just don't know where that money went. And I know people say, "Oh, it's on the ledger." You're like, right, right. So, it's just like investing in a way like if somebody on this call says, I want to invest in single family homes with somebody like Dale, they can, right? Like they can go support that home ownership. They can go support you. They can go make a difference in people's lives. They can go support those families. Like they can, like, where the money's going. To me,
Yeah.
that's revolutionary.
And
And
what's fun about it is, I can go buy Wells Fargo stock and I suppose I can go walk into a branch and say I'm an owner. I could go buy Tesla stock, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to give me a tour of the plant that I'm an owner of. But you know what? I invest in your fund or you invest in Central Capital Partners Fund. You can get in your car and go drive out there and look and say, yeah, I had something to do with this complex.
yeah, 100%. I highly recommend you go after we're done with the renovations and everything.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to go, see,
We
go,
still haven't reduced to 75% crime yet. So
it's almost there. Just like it takes time. Give it 6 months. It always takes at least 6 months or a year, but it happens. Like you can go see that. We've had people go out, investors go out and see some of our properties and be like, oh, like, yeah, that one. Like you should see the
yes.
before pictures. That place was disgusting. That place is beautiful now. And it's
Yes.
still affordable. We didn't jack up rents. We didn't like you're in this space where you're creating affordable homes. The name of the game is not to, jack it up as high as possible. The name of the game is providing something that's clean, safe, affordable, um, to as many people as possible.
Yes.
So what's next? What's on the horizon? More of the same? You guys are trying to go to every city in America? What's happening?
No, we're not greedy. Just half the cities. I'm kidding. Um, we
Greedy. I want you to go to every city in America. Like,
we're expanding our footprint. We're looking early stages of looking at what we can do with modular to try and create greater affordability. We haven't been seeing the opportunities, but we're watching pretty close. We think there's some opportunities coming along in apartments again that we've not quite seen, for various reasons with,
mhm.
some of the financing that happened 5 years ago is going to create some opportunities. And so we're watching that pretty close. We repositioned our company. The president of our company now doesn't even live in Minnesota, but is somebody that's experienced in building internationally and building $1.5 billion in construction a year. But making some of those changes to give us the ability to go into a Cincinnati, go into Kansas City, Salt Lake City, wherever it is, in a more efficient manner. And so we're really excited about some of the opportunities we're going to see in the future here close.
Yeah, me too. Awesome. If it was up to me, you guys would be in every city in America building affordable homes, making a difference. We just need more people who care about impact, care about making a difference, and are willing to do it for a profit, understand how to make a profit, and deliver an excellent product to people at an incredibly affordable price. Like that's what we need. We need a
Yeah.
lot of it. Millions of homes. I think last I saw was a deficit of 7.8 million homes right now, is what they need. And government's not going to solve that.
No, no. Well, I mean, the problem is if they want to solve it, they're going to create more problems. In this last presidential election, there was a lot of talk about doing a $25,000 tax credit. Well, if we have a $7.8 million shortage, $7.8 million, 7.8 million home shortage, and all of a sudden we're giving out $25,000 free money for down payment, what's that going to do? All of a sudden we're going to have a rush to buy houses. Well,
Going to make it
the
worse.
whole reason housing went up is because we had the rush of all the free money that was pumped in the market from COVID. And now people are out. And so we had hundreds of thousands of people all of a sudden buying houses that weren't before. And that drove up the prices. So all of a sudden, I've got a plumber that's on the job site and another plumber doesn't have enough workers. So he says, hey, I'll pay you $5 an hour more if you'll come work for me. So he walks off the job site, goes to the other guy. Well, now my plumber's saying, oh, geez, what do I do? So he's got to go to the same thing. And he goes somewhere else, says, I'll pay you $5 an hour more. And well, all of a sudden the wages are going up and the commodities are going up because now the same thing's happening at the lumber mills and all the places to get the commodities. That's going up. Well, now the cost of living has gone up. So now I have to make $5 more just to make ends meet. And we've got this vicious cycle. Well, if we pumped $25,000 free money, we're going to have that same thing. So what's going to happen is a lot of people talked about, well, that's just going to raise prices 25,000. No, I would argue that's going to be significantly more than 25,000. That's going to raise prices 50 to 100 to $200,000 per house. So it actually compounded and made the problem significantly worse. And that's my biggest worry about when the government wants to help is like, just get out of the way, reduce regulation, get out of the way. We need some regulation. We need some, I don't want somebody going in and building a house that's going to fall over and kill people or is a fire hazard. Let's have some regulation. That's important. But, let's bring that pendulum back.
So the new Secretary of Housing and Urban Development is a developer, an experienced developer, former NFL guy, Scott Turner. You think that's going to help? Assuming he gets confirmed and everything else. Think that's going to make it better?
I don't know his background. So I think it's hard to say. If he has the attitude of, hey, let's get rid of some of this red tape, then I think it will help. But if he's going to come in and change the world and we've got all these great initiatives, often those initiatives is what hurts.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say. Unfortunately, sometimes it's your local government agencies are even more difficult. You talked about California. I was involved in a project in Northern California that the land was bought in 2010 at a great price. And we started putting streets in 2022. It took 12 years to get the government approvals. And that's mostly because of the city, the county, all the different local agencies. And so I don't know how we solve that.
Well, we need more homes, but how dare you build homes?
Yeah, exactly. We need more homes in someone else's yard.
Yeah, yeah, not in my backyard, right? The NIMBYs or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just figure we'll just solve it a few thousand homes at a time and we'll go to those cities that are ready.
Yeah, fair enough. Just like place people are moving to Texas because Texas is ready for business, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And the market's going to dictate it. Yeah, Austin's a great example of thousands and thousands of apartments were built because the market needed it. Well,
yeah,
guess what? Now the vacancy rate's jumping and rents are going down. Well, what's that going to do? I'm not going to go build any apartments in Austin anytime soon because of it. And that's
nope,
okay. The market is correcting itself right now in Austin, which is what we want. That's the ideal.
that's the ideal. I live here and I'm not going to build there because they overdid it, which is fine. That's part of the risk, and that's why we do the analysis and we don't go to markets that are crazy hot because they implode. That's what happens, right? If you were there in 2011, a lot of places imploded. I was making money in single family homes in San Antonio because San Antonio never exploded, and so it never imploded. It was
Yes.
just steady and it just kept going. Things got a little slower, but that was about it.
And I think as people look at investments, I think that's a pretty important point. You know, we're not going to make as much money in a San Antonio as we would in um, Phoenix or Miami or some of these other markets. But Phoenix highs are higher, but their lows are lower.
Hmm.
And I think that's pretty important. You know, what is the risk that you want to take? Because you go to a San Antonio and build something, your risk is significantly less of the market falling than it is, say, in Phoenix. And
Yeah.
you know, we're the same way. We like, you know, we're really focused on the Midwest because you know Cincinnati's and the Kansas cities and the you know those markets don't get red hot. So certainly we're not going to be making huge money, but we're still making a ton of money. But we've also mitigated a ton of that risk.
Yeah. Boring stuff.
Yeah,
Is about
I love boring that makes a lot of
yeah.
money.
It makes a lot of money. Steady, easy. I don't know about easy, but it's just steady and just goes.
Yeah,
Well, Dale, it's been a fantastic conversation with you. And hopefully, folks not only heard what you said, but how you said it, the enthusiasm, the optimism, the dedication to making a difference. Um, so, first off, thank you for being you, for being the type of person who can do what you're doing. And second off, how can people find you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So Dale R. Wills under LinkedIn. Centra Capital Partners, CENTRA capitalpartners.com is a great place of a lot of the projects that we've got going on and what we have. And so, yeah, if you want to see what we're doing, look us up.
All right, great. I'll make sure those are in the show notes. And Dale, it's been so good to have you on the show. And we'll see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Clean Money, where we talk about sustainable investing that improves society. We are passionate about creating great investment returns to investors who want to use their money to make a positive social impact in the world. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd appreciate a 5-star review. And if you are interested in making your investing matter, please connect with us at wildmountaincapital.com, or you can find me, Samuel Sells, on LinkedIn, on Twitter at Sells_Samuel, on Instagram at Clean Money Sam, or on Facebook. And finally, make your investing matter.